Good evening, everybody. We are here for a special Old Gray Bricks Thursday Night Live. We have our guest, Double King Bricks, Daniel, is here to talk to
That's
us
me.
about his Seatron layout that he has taken to a number of conventions now at this point.
Yep.
And we also have, as always, Matthew, who is being Ice Ice Baby Space. Baby Space, woo! And Jeff is in the background over there, but Jeff is with us from the Great White North, as always. And in the chat, we have Grumpy J, Entertainingly Lame, Morgan, Moto, Fever, Building the Magic, Andrew Sada, and welcome to everybody in the chat for coming to hang out with us. And welcome to Daniel for coming to hang out with us. It's been looking forward to talking about your layout and stuff. It'll be a lot of fun. So,
thank you. Good to be here. It's my first time being on Old Gray Bricks, so being the featured guest is kind of getting thrown into hot water here for sure. But I think we're gonna have a good stream for sure.
The only problem is that you're bringing down the average age of the show members by a lot by joining us. So
that's fair.
Well,
I mean,
we have Small Paul, you know.
You may have to work in some dad jokes in the middle.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
technically,
I hang out with Brian's Bricks a lot. I feel like we're both kind of old souls at heart. So
Technically, Paul's getting older now too, so he's might be bringing the age back up. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. Law of averages for sure. Yeah, Morgan said I've seen Tron. Great movie. That's like the seafood joke, right? Like, hey, do you like seafood? Yeah, I've seen Tron.
That's a joke worthy of Matthew.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I didn't get it at first, and then I did when you said it again for the second time.
There it is. Dad joke loading.
Well, gosh,
so
where do we want to start?
before we launch into that, I don't know if you guys have any new news since Monday, but I got my Space Babies. I got my order in. I bought a couple of Ninjago Dragons for Small Paul, and I got the Great Wave set for myself so that we could qualify for the gift with purchase, get the Space Babies.
Go ahead, actually, rub it in.
Lego has actually said these aren't babies. They're micro astronauts because it's not a baby face on there.
It's creepy.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's different.
And
it's Space Babies in our hearts.
Yes. And I was debating if I have to change my mosaic now because I added the white baby in there, but it's got the baby face instead of a classic smiley face. And I'm like, well, if I put the classic smiley face in there, it's probably bigger than the helmets. Like I'd have to scale it down. And I'm like, no, it's staying as a baby because it's a baby. Yeah.
It's small enough to be a baby. So it's a baby.
Space babies, space non-babies, midge knots. I don't know about that one.
Midge knots.
Somebody will come up with something good.
That's kind of
we're getting
awkward.
close.
I don't like that.
I don't know about that one. Hey, small
babies.
astronauts.
Well, I have a build. So in order to get I definitely spent a lot of money the last week or so driving over the Lego store. And one of the things that I picked up was the roller skates, which I was very excited about. It looked really fun. I'm old enough that when I first went to a roller rink, this is the kind of skate everybody had. I remember rollerblades coming out. That's how old I am. And so I built this, and it was smaller than I expected. I don't know, all the photographs, I guess I didn't really have anything in the background to judge, but it's really not that big.
Wow.
So I'm putting it up by my face so you can see it's not enormous. But I'm assuming these tires, Jeff probably already knows the answer to this, but I'm assuming these tires are available in black, but we are getting them in this hot pink and the light aqua. It uses a bunch of these like curved pieces on the side. And I was commenting about how it would be fun to do the skate maybe in more than one color. And on our lug chat, and I think Jason Santee or somebody pulled up that part, and he said, yeah, actually this part's available in about surprising number of colors, like 8-10 colors. So if you wanted to use the template of the old school roller skate, there's a number of other colors that you could then brick together. And you could probably use the black tire or the pink tire I'm assuming the black's available. Kids size skates, not massive. I actually kind of a small skate size. I wear a 8.5 in ice skates, but I wear a 10 in shoes. So ice skate sizes are different than shoe sizes. I'm not really sure why that is, but they are. So this was a little addition. And then also when I was buying stuff at Atlanta BrickCon, I got the damaged box, Viking Village. So I don't have a lot of like Castle-y type sets in my collection. I do have the original Medieval Village set, but this looks really fun, and it got my goat, even though there's not a goat in the set. I thought, well, I will jump. So when I saw the damaged box one being available, I went for it. And then also when I was getting the baby space, I picked up the battle pack, which if you're a Star Wars fan, that's actually a pretty awesome pack, because you get clone trooper, you get plain clone troopers, and you get the super battle droids and the regular battle droids. So for the amount of money, it's not a bad army builder. So you got both sides in the classic Clone Wars sets. So sometimes Lego kind of cheaps out, I think, on these battle packs and doesn't give you enough, or they just keep raising the price for the 4 minifigs. But that's actually a pretty good pack, I think.
Very good. Jeff, you got anything new going on over there?
Well, I didn't want to interrupt Matt when he was talking, but the hockey skates are smaller size than American sizes because hockey is Canadian.
Are those Canadian sizes then?
Yes, of course. No, I don't know.
So is that true for shoe size?
It's
So
the
is your
exchange
skate
rate.
size? Is your skate size the same as a shoe size in Canada?
No, it's different as well.
Okay.
I don't know what. I was just being sarcastic. I was just trying to point out that you're playing a Canadian sport.
Fair.
Anyway.
Fine.
I haven't had much going on really. It's kind of in pieces. Hold on, that's why is my cable not going? It's stuck on something. Hold on. Technical.
So while he's making his point about Canada, I already debuted this hat on the Canadian Brick Builders.
There we go.
But it's a container of maple syrup playing ice hockey, which I'm trying to be pro Canada when I appear on Jeff's Canadian Brick Builder. So maple syrup playing a game of ice hockey. I thought this was pretty
That's
pro.
awesome.
That's pretty darn
That might be
Canadian.
cultural
It's actually sweet.
appropriation. I
That's
don't know.
I was just setting up my hotel in the train station with the new Telus building behind it, and I'm actually realized I can't put it there because I need to set the castle up again to fix a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to be moving it over here. Maybe during the stream, it depends. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I've been doing that. I rebuilt the bouncy castle after it fell apart again, and I need to rework the motor and everything still, because the red micro motor right here is so gone that there's zero friction against it right now. So it's burnt out pretty much, or worn out. I don't know. So I'm working on that as well. Where did you buy your hat, Matt?
I think this one was Noble North, which is a Canadian-based hat company that I like. I bought a couple of them, and they do some with, obviously with hockey, but also they've got like a moose playing hockey and a beaver playing hockey. Canadian stuff.
We're not going to make a comment about beaver playing hockey.
Hey, hockey's the game hockey's for everyone.
Oh, I agree. Not arguing there. I also like when I got my bricks and pieces order in, or I got an order in with bricks and pieces to get the babies. So I got a bag of Lego goodness here. A bunch of the new pieces, or some of the new pieces at least, that were bestseller, and a few sets as well. Nothing huge, just some small sets to get to the 260 Canadian mark, because it's $60 more than in the States. I wanted to buy bigger sets, but they were all $100 more than the gift of purchase requirement, and I'm like, I don't want to spend an extra $100 right now. So, I'm hoping that's well, I don't know. I don't know what I'm hoping, but I just saw that Snow White set today. I mean, I saw it announced a few days ago, but realized that Snow White set is very, very castle-y, very medieval, and I realized that as part of the castle, I have the Find the Fig thing, and I'm like, the Seven Dwarfs can totally work well in there. So I feel I have to buy that castle now, or that set now, just to get the Seven Dwarfs and throw them in the castle. And maybe I won't tell kids that they're in them, like I won't have them on the sheet to find. But it's a bonus afterwards or whatever. It's like find the Seven Dwarfs now. I don't know. That's about it.
Very good. All right, Small Paul, do you have a dragon to talk about tonight? We'll do a dragon of the week from Small Paul.
It's an updated one.
Oh, okay.
Technically, so,
let's make it happen. We gotta keep it moving here.
I don't know. I forgot the dragon's name. Yes.
It's the Cole's Earth Dragon.
Cole's Earth Dragon. We upgraded it to give it a movable neck, ball joints everywhere, because ball joints forever. Its wings used to be on its legs, but we moved them onto the shoulders. It has this saddle thing, I think. Got a little. Excuse you. It's got this little I don't know what to call it. He skipped back a leg day. Not acceptable, but it's okay. He has one ball joint at the tail, 2 large bony spikes at the tail. And if you look on his back, you can see quite a lot. His horns are probably gold. His mouth opens that wide. His feet move, so do the back. And his tail does this.
I had to laugh there during that conversation, during that description, because he said he's got one ball joint at the tail. And I said, oh, his name is Chris? Or that's what I thought right away.
Right.
And here's the other small dragon of the day.
Jeff's dragon of the week.
There's not much to explain. It's just a black
That's
dragon.
the dragon of every week, right?
The classic dragon.
Classic dragons were more derpy.
Okay, that's all there was, man, and we loved it.
Yeah, they still look good. It's just that they were kind of derpy.
I remember when those dragons were new.
Yep. And we all wanted the black one. I think the black one was the rare one, wasn't it? Or was it the red one?
Oh, yeah.
Well, hey, if we're going to be talking about unreleased and prototypes
Classic dragon, these
tonight,
nuts.
there was also the like Loch Ness monster prototype from those Europa sets.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, I'll have to send y'all a picture of that later.
Yeah. Christmas, the joke there.
Okay, well, moving right along, let's go to Daniel.
Not circle
I have
to
my
that one.
official Daniel Double King Gujic that I got at the Atlanta Brick Con, so there it is.
And I didn't.
But yeah, let's go to Daniel. Go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm Daniel, or Double King Bricks on Instagram. I work at Atlanta Brick Co. I'm a fan of weird old stuff. Well, I shouldn't say weird. You guys are fans of old stuff too. It's weird for my age that I'm as into old stuff as I am. But I mean, in looking at the stuff I have, the sets I have on display on my shelf, I would say probably 3/4 of them are from before the year 2000. So, I like that kind of stuff for sure. So when I come across something as weird as Seatron or something like that, it kind of catches your attention. And I think a fair number of people might at least recognize the main Seatron picture, but maybe don't know what it is or what the story was behind it. I've talked about, the history of Seatron at length on a video that we did on the Atlanta Brick Co. channel. So you can go check that out too if you want more of the history. I think tonight we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of my journey in actually building Seatron and recreating it. But we can do a little quick history to start us off. So this was a prototype theme. Yeah, there you go. Throw that up. Prototype space set that they were planning to do. The dates are kind of fuzzy. It seems to change every time a different article comes out about it. Some saying it was as early as 84. I think Mark Stafford was claiming that. He was the one who did the original interview with Jens Nygaard Knudsen in the Brick Journal article 6 from 2009. And he was claiming that it was maybe as early as 84. We now know from the new Lego space book, this big boy right here, that it was designed by Bjarne Panduro Tveskov, was the guy who worked on this. And he wasn't even hired till 85. So I'm going to place it more like 85 to 90 was kind of the time we're looking at that they might have been developing this. Probably set to release in 90 or 91. Oops, something's popping up. So that kind of gives you an idea of the time frame for this. This was obviously well before, you know, any AquaZone or Aqua Raiders or anything like that. As you can kind of tell by the color scheme, that's what ended up evolving out of it. You've got this kind of yellow and trans dark blue color scheme with the underwater vehicles. I don't think the white and trans red was ever really used in anything later, as far as I know. Sort of an interesting one there. I was reading something in the Lego Space book actually about the reason why, you know, certain colored classic spacemen were in certain sets, and a lot of people have their theories or their childhood memories that certain colors were associated with like certain roles. And apparently in one of the interviews, according to the designers, it was totally made up. It was totally random. It was more about which colors looked better in certain sets. And sometimes it had to do with what color the transparent elements were for the theme. So like if it was transparent dark blue for, you know, Futuron or something, and you had a red spaceman, he would look black through that color filter. So they would choose a different color like yellow or something. So apparently it was not arbitrary, but not for the reason that a lot of people were thinking of in terms of, you know, the roles of the different characters. So you can actually kind of see that.
Was
oh, sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't like the red shirts in Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, you know,
that was more
like the spies or the villains or something.
I think that was just our headcanon that we decided what the different colors meant.
I think so. Yeah. You can see a little bit of that in this picture because the minifigs they used for this were the red Futuron guys, which had the trans dark blue visors. But when you can see him sitting in the cockpit of the spaceship there, and his visor just looks black because of the color filtering. So some interesting new tidbits coming out in this book. I've read a few pages of it in depth, but I need to really sit down and read through it better. But it, you know, so they were developing this as a prototype. So they would make these physical models either to, you know, have test groups with kids to play with them, to try them out, or to, you know, take pictures of them and probably have them in marketing test groups or business pitch meetings and stuff. And so these photos have been saved in somebody's archive, probably either Jens's or Bjarne's. And they've, you know, finally made their way out. That first time was in that Brick Journal article. We got this picture of the space base, as well as the picture of, here, let's go back over to my photo album here. And we'll jump down. Here we go. The original prototype minifigs. A lot of people have seen these as well. This is not visible in that monorail picture, but these are presumably from the kind of other secondary one that was presumed to be part of Seatron, which was called Sea People. You see that a lot with this sign here. We'll talk about those ones later, the Sea People. But these minifigures are crazy. A couple of these prototypes have gotten out. They've been usually in this trans neon green color, which is interesting that's what some of the prototypes were coming out in. But I know there's at least a handful out there, and they've sold for several thousands of dollars. I don't think I'd ever be able to get my hands on one of those. But it seemed they were planned to be solid green for most of the sets. Or as we take a look at some pictures later, there were some other colors they could possibly come out in. So some really crazy stuff. I mean, this was about like 10 years before the other minifigures that were the actual first ones to have custom molded pieces, which were like Jar Jar and Yoda, which would be 1999. So the fact that they were talking about doing a minifigure that has, 4 unique new molds to it for each leg, the torso, and the head was just crazy. So presumably this was canceled due to costs. I mean, the monorail for sure, they were just not selling well for how much they cost back then. I mean, I have here that the Futuron one that came out in 1987 was $155, which adjusted for inflation is like $345 by today's money. So they were not selling super hot, to say the least.
Yeah, that's pretty pricey, especially for a kid's play set.
Exactly. It was a cool gimmick. I mean, it was like trains or anything else with those 9-volt battery boxes, but people just couldn't afford them back then. So the project was shelved due to poor sales, but then they recycled it and turned it into Aquazone there with that later color scheme. So here, let me actually, if you just want to pop back to the camera, we can start showing off the real thing instead of the pictures of what people have already seen. I guess we could start with the monorail itself. So in terms of my journey with Seatron, it's the kind of thing that you come across on the internet one day and you look at it a little more carefully and go, well, what is that? That's not a set that I've ever seen before. And you start doing some more research. But
okay, but first of all, the shirt. We got to see the shirt.
Oh yeah. Here you go. This is the shirt.
There it is.
Shout out to Randy. She's in the chat. She printed this for me at work. This was a one-off, but if anybody wants a Seatron shirt, you can send us an email. Shameless plug for work. info@atlbrick.com. We'll get you hooked up with a Seatron shirt. But anyway, yeah, I came across the photos of it and it was like, oh, this is a cool, weird thing, but, probably something I didn't ever dream of building at the time. And then it was one day when I was in the store and somebody traded in, they brought in a whole shopping bag and it had the monorail motor, the two, chassis pieces that they drive along, and all of the track for the Unitron monorail, because it was the one with the switches in it. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, this would be perfect if I ever wanted to build a Seatron one, because it's like you wouldn't want to buy a whole set. You wouldn't want to buy the parts all separately or buy a whole monorail set and split it up. But it snowballed from there. I started looking for parts for it to try and figure out how to construct it. And a lot of what this is going to be about is how hard some of these parts are to find. Because a lot of them just don't exist. They just did that a lot with prototypes back then. They would print on parts, prints that had never been done. They would mold parts that were never even made as molds, or they would mold them in different colors that were never made. And then there were ones that just ended up being rare. They weren't rare to them at the time because, in the design offices, they probably had drawers full of these parts that they could play with and build sets. And didn't think twice about it. But like by today's standard, maybe it only came out in one classic space set and there was only one of them in the set. So now they're really expensive.
Yeah. When I was in Billings, working on Mars mission, they told me that if there was a piece that you wanted to use in the prototype and you didn't have the color, there was a spray paint booth down in a back room that you could go down and you could paint apart whatever color you thought it should be for your prototype. And that was just part of the design process.
That's good to know from an insider's perspective, because I've always wondered that. I was like, if they're prototyping something, the amount of plastic you would have to push through a mold to change the color of it would waste a lot of stuff just to run off, a couple parts for building a set. So the fact that they were actually painting them for the prototypes is interesting to know. It makes me feel a little less bad about painting some of my parts to make this.
So there's your comment from Steve. If you want your official Seatron hat, he can make that happen.
I'll send you the logo. That's one of the other things that I've done is I took the Seatron logo that's kind of floating around out there, which is really grainy and pixelated, and I cleaned it up a lot in Adobe Illustrator. So if anybody needs a crispy clean Seatron logo for anything, they can hit me up too for that. But anyway, back to this. Yeah, the first.
So you
you
made custom decals there. I was going back to what you were showing, but the Aqualock is a custom decal.
That's a custom. So these are actually vinyl cut letters. I went to a local sign shop that will, cut out vinyl letters for think of like a business with a glass door. They would put like the hours on the door. They're just like little vinyl adhesive letters. So that's how I got these ones to look as good as they do. One of the first attempts that I did. Let me see if I can find the picture of it. I think I had a side-by-side. One of the first things I had tried doing was just like laser printing on a clear adhesive paper. And it just, when you're printing yellow on something that's on blue, it really doesn't hardly show up at all. Yeah, here we go. If you go back to the screen share one there. Yeah, you can see the difference in the one on the left was just, it really barely showed up at all. And then the one on the right is those new vinyl cut letters. So if you need anything done like that, I'd recommend finding like a local sign shop.
Yeah, if you hadn't told me that there were letters on that, I would not even pick that up.
You really couldn't see them at all. It was bad. It was a first attempt. It was a first draft.
With printed brick, usually, and Chris Campbell, who prints a lot of our stuff on his UV printer, will tell you that the trick to that is you have to put down a couple layers of white and then put the color on top of it.
Makes sense. Like a primer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think after that, I think the next thing I tried was asking, the sign shops usually also do printing. And I think I'd asked them if they have capability to print white or, print like a primer layer. And I think the one I was at didn't have that chance. And I think I had actually like walked out the door, to leave bummed. And I think I went back in. I was like, well, do you all also do vinyl cut letters? And they were like, oh yeah, we can totally do that. So they were kind of on the fence about whether or not they could do something this small since the letters are hollow, but they were like, we'll give it a shot. And it worked a treat. They look fantastic.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, I was happy with how that turned out for sure. In terms of hard to find parts on this, obviously the monorail stuff is expensive, but some random kind of harder to find ones are the 2x4x2 snot brick with the studs in yellow. That one was only in the AquaZone. What was the big base? Neptune Discovery Lab. There's only one in that, so unfortunately hard to find. The yellow panel, the octagon panels here, which you need like 10 of to build the monorail, were only in like a Technic submarine set. So I call that the Seatron submarine, but I don't know how familiar other people are with that one.
Yeah,
it's a shame that Dana's not on, because when he went through and bricked all of the classic space line, he and I had a lot of conversations about, looking for parts. And one of the things that popped up again and again for him was just how surprisingly often it would be that some of the classic space sets would have a part in a particular color that only ever appeared in one set. And when you're going back and you're trying to collect those parts, you think, well, it won't be that hard. And I have a bunch of printed tiles that I just, keep, and, the little like directional arrow pieces. And he would say, oh, do you have this on a yellow brick? And I would say, oh, I have a lot of those arrow parts. But then if you're actually looking for the specific color, quite often, I'd be like, well, no, but I have it in black and in red. And he's like, well, I need the yellow, or whatever the case. So
yeah, totally
get what you're saying about just the scarcity sometimes of, in particular, if you want a particular thing in a particular set, it can be surprisingly difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as we're talking about it, some other notable ones here. The 1x2 brick with the arrow facing down was only in, I think, one set, maybe two in white. Let's see. Yeah, 6925 Interplanetary Rover from Futuron. It's just, they printed it on there, and that's the only one they ended up using it for, I guess. These white octagon panels with the grill printed on it. Let's see. That one was only in Futuron 6850 Auxiliary Patroller. It's probably had a bin full of them in the design offices for them to use for these prototypes and stuff. And it just happened that it only made it into one set in a quantity of one. And, I'm paying for it now, but most other people don't really care.
But you also have access to some of the Atlanta BrickCon parts, or Atlanta Brick Co parts as well. So you probably have a bit of an advantage over a lot of people.
A little bit of an advantage for sure. But even when stuff is that rare, it's hard to find, even in our magical basement. It is the kind of thing that I now grab anytime I see it. Like my brain is hardwired for those white panel pieces and, some of these other ones.
Yeah.
So can we go back to that little vehicle for a second? Because
Yeah.
the thing that I wanted to point out is something that a lot of us old school space fans like is modularity, and that's
Mhm.
carrying the cargo container that fits on the monorail, right?
Right. So there's only one of the cargo pods in the picture, and this is just sort of sitting on the dock like this. So I'm sure somebody figured out before me, but I kind of had to intuit like that the purpose of these little flaps with these arrows on it was to act as these kind of claw things to lock the container in place so that you could fly off with it. So it's sort of an interesting. It's really one of the only play features in the thing is that you can take the containers from the monorail and offload them onto the ship and fly away with it when you're in the above water portion. So it was kind of a convoluted theme to read just visually in terms of, this part's underwater, but it's also space and there's also spaceships. So I think maybe some of those factors also contributed to why the theme didn't make it to market. But very, very fun to work on. So like I said, that was pretty much one of the only play features. You can't really tell in the pictures because the dark blue windows look almost black. You can't really tell was supposed to be inside the cargo pods as the actual payload. I mean, I've sometimes put like a shark in them because I assume like maybe the trans blue is like it's supposed to be full of water. Maybe they're like loading up these alien sharks or something into these containers and taking them off to the space zoo or something. I don't know. I have no idea. You can let your imagination run wild with that one.
So what else do you have there vehicle wise that you want to?
Let's see. There's that. There's the. I guess we could talk about the. We could talk about the base itself. I'll pull it off the base plate. This is the one that really catches most people's eye. Is the actual base itself. The biggest and most notable part of which being these two large transparent red quarter dome pieces. I think this is what when people are walking by at a convention or something, if they're a space fan, they really kind of wonder like, oh, where did you get those? How did you get those? Are those a prototype part? The answer is no. I found a clever way to recreate these. So there's a few different ways you can kind of represent prototype parts, and I went through a number of different trials with this one as well, kind of like I did with the vinyl cut letters. So the easiest thing you can do is substitute it for a different piece. You could use the trans neon orange, but it would kind of throw off the whole color scheme of the thing. The next thing I looked into doing was resin printing. So again, Randy actually helped me out with this. This part isn't polished up to be transparent, but the issues that come about with this are the proportions being slightly off over a piece this size. Means you'd never get the it would never be in system quite right. It's surprisingly well printed and it's pretty robust, but I don't think you would ever be able to really integrate it into a build super effectively for a part that size. So what I settled on, what I eventually did was I took the transparent yellow ones from Blacktron, and which unfortunately are the most expensive part, or the most expensive color for that part. And first I tried applying a alcohol ink to it. It's the stuff you can buy at like Michael's or like any craft store. Alcohol ink. I don't know. It's like this dye you can put on there, but it's not like a permanent plastic dye. Like it's alcohol soluble, so you can rinse it off and it'll look good as new. So you're not like permanently altering it. But the issue with it is it'll kind of pool up around the edges because it's a liquid. So like this octagon canopy here, this one is actually done with that ink. But you can tell it's not the most even coating. It's like a little bit pooled up kind of on the corners. So what I ended up doing with this larger one was taking this adhesive vinyl film. You can buy this on Amazon or anywhere. But it's a transparent red film, and you just put it on like a phone screen protector or something. You get your credit card out and you work the bubbles out of it. And I had to trim some little sections out where the joints are, so you can kind of see it there. But it's pretty good. It's pretty convincing. You can see some of the yellow showing through on the edges where I haven't done it, but I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I mean, from a distance, you really can't hardly tell, especially from the inside. The sheen is really even the same.
Yeah, it looks really good.
But and with like that color filtering thing that we talked about earlier with the visors and the transparent pieces, like if I had used a cheaper color of this, all the cheaper colors for this part are darker. It's like trans dark green, trans dark blue. You know, the color filtering wouldn't pass through. So I kind of had to use the transparent yellow to get any light shining through at all. But really happy with how that turned out. So found 2 of the trans yellow quarter domes in someone's loose brick. Oh man, that's insane, Andrew. Yeah, I know. I keep an eye out for them, but even at the store, we just don't see parts like that often. You know, I would snag them if I did. As expensive as those are, I mean, those are probably what, like $50-$60 a piece now. The most expensive part on this thing is these lattice pieces here. So in the original picture, it was white and yellow lattice pieces, which they never made either one of those colors. I think the only colors they ever made it in were black, red, and then this light gray. So yeah, there you go. So these yellow ones, these are genuine bona fide Lego prototype parts, presumably from Legoland or something. If you jump back to my camera, you can see the Lego logos on there. Oops, there we go. They're legit. I don't know if you can even see that. The light's probably not right. But I coughed up for those. There was a guy in Europe who had some of them on Bricklink, and I had some of my friends at the store chip in because I knew how passionate and obsessed I was about Seatron. So they kicked me some bucks to help out to purchase those. But they weren't cheap. I've never seen any white ones as far as I know. You know, they could have only been made for the original prototype, but the yellow ones I've heard people say maybe in old like Legoland models for like cranes, like big cranes in the city or something, maybe where they made some. But yeah, so I'm glad to have all of those that I need now. I won't have to be buying any more of those.
So while we've got your screen share up, let's talk about Sea People. Do you want to page over to the Sea People?
Yeah, let's jump over to that one.
We can touch on that.
For sure. There we go.
Which, while he's doing that, I just want to pause for a moment to and Sea People related that this is the 2-year anniversary of the world premiere of Crabulons. So it popped up in my Facebook memories, which I told Mark Sandlin in our text chat. I said, this is actually probably my favorite thing you ever built. Like, I just think it's hilarious, the little Crabulons on top of a minifig body. So it'll keep coming up in my memory flashback photos for all eternities. But I just saw it again and it just tickled me on the inside. So.
No, I love Crabulons. I think you brought him to one of the Peach Lug meetings that was at Rich's house that I had brought one of my Seatron ships to. And so I think now we have this sort of informal beef between the Crabulons and the Sea People.
We've retconned.
So we need to further this collab.
We've kind of retconned them into the continuity there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No, I'm all about Crabulons.
So you can really sort of see, especially on the lower right, that almost looks like one of the Aqua Shark kind of vehicles down there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've got them all behind me, so let me grab this. This is one of my favorite ones here, the shark one out of these ones. It's the most detailed, mostly because it's the one that's closest to the front of the picture, so you can actually make out the details. But yeah, this black and green color scheme and trans neon green went directly into Aqua Raiders 1, I think it was, which there was only ever 3 sets of. So, we had all these prototypes, and even though it wasn't canceled because of the monorail costs or anything, I guess they boiled it all the way down to those 3 sets for Aqua Raiders 1. So, kind of disappointing, but it's neat the way that when you see the original fully fleshed prototype line, seeing all the different kind of sea creatures that they represented. So, you got this one, which was the shark, which had these crazy eyes, but you've also got, a green cannon on top and, using these awful macaroni arms. How do you all feel about these things? they're fun to play with, but they're annoying as all get out. I don't know. What are y'all's opinions on the macaroni arms?
As kids, we thought those were pretty cool.
Yeah.
They were, I mean, compared to the rest of the stuff, they sort of felt like I don't know, sort of high tech kind of things, because you didn't really get those in a lot of sets.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Although the gripper arm on the old gray ones always broke. The clips always broke on those, and I always hated that.
They were sort of fragile.
Yeah,
That was going to be my next question: were they always fragile, or was that something that came more with age?
I think I only remember the gray ones really breaking.
Interesting.
Right.
I've had a few of the joints, the black pieces just sort of crumble over
Okay.
time, just with age.
Yeah. I've broken probably more than my fair share, but I think that has to do with me just gripping them the wrong way when I'm trying to pull them apart. You've got to not pinch in the direction that the fingers are going. You got to pinch perpendicular to it. But yeah, this shark one's fun. It's got these panels on the side that open up, and this is all kind of speculative. It's just what you can tell from these old blurry pictures, but you can kind of intuit based on the kind of design cues from the era of how they would have done things. Another random part here that was hard to find, the old kind of hinging panel part here in black, I think was only in the Pirates set, the Spanish Armada one with that white and blue hull, that crazy looking one. There's only one in that. So another hard part to find even at the store. This is probably the most crazy one, and they would never make anything like this with all these hoses all over it. I mean, I guess they're going for like sort of like a squid or like a cuttlefish thing with it.
Whoa.
Some of the other ones are a little more clear, but yeah, this is just crazy.
It feels very fanciful and even like artistic, a little artsy there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think these prototype designers were just kind of pushing the boundaries of what was possible and maybe not what was realistic, which is, good to do in a creative design outlet. Do what you want to do, and then let the suits kind of boil it down to what you're allowed to do.
So one of the ones that caught my eye with the thing there is the big quarter saucers on that one that looks like a I don't know, it almost looks like a whale or something.
My guess for this one is stingray. With you got the big kind of flaps. It doesn't really have a pointed tail so much, but that's as close as I can figure for this one, with just kind of those big wings on it. So another interesting one for sure. So this is when you can start to tell for sure where I broke the spray paint out. I mean, these domes definitely never came in green. The whatever you want to call these parts, they were in Explorians a lot and insectoids. I think.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say insectoids on this show? I guess Chris isn't here. He's not going to throw up in his mouth. But yeah, those I think were only in white and dark gray, so I had to paint those black. The canopy appeared in black, but only with the Aqua Sharks print on it. So there was some Brasso involved with that one. I'm sure Dana can attest. But the old prints, the old printed parts, are really tough to get off compared to newer ones. It was a lot of elbow grease to get those off of there. Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Chris is still here. Sorry, Chris. I hope you didn't throw up. But yeah, so some other fun stuff. You got those kind of domed eye pieces there, but they're black with in the original picture they were trans neon green window portholes. I really haven't been able to find something to make that look quite the right color. I haven't found. I'm using this alcohol ink again, but in sort of a yellow or green color. But I need to find one that's like a UV reactive kind of neon color to try and get that to match. But yeah, that's definitely another fun one.
It's interesting looking at the picture that we had up a few moments ago, because it looks like trans yellow in the back of that base. And I'm assuming it was probably just that's the color they had. Like it should have been the trans neon green, but maybe it is trans neon green. It just looks very trans yellow. And I remember seeing that picture years ago and thinking, I want that quarter, like I want that wall panel.
Yeah.
Quarter domes, right? It's like, oh,
I'm not going to try and pick that one up because it's huge, but I mean,
Okay.
you can kind of see it in the back there. So, obviously we got the quarter domes in the trans neon green from UFO, but the the curved, the straight section panel was in Blacktron 2, but again, only with a print. So had to brasso that one off. That one hurt a little bit.
In trans neon green. Yeah, okay.
In trans neon green. Yeah.
Sorry.
Blacktron.
In my head, I'm still thinking that came in trans yellow. What? Oh, no.
No, you're good. Yeah, in the neon green. Gosh, what else do we want to talk about? Yeah, you can see in that on the base, there's this crazy looking like egg pod thing kind of on the right side.
Oh, yeah, in the back.
And I would like eventually to try and maybe get somebody to 3D print something for that. Right now, what I've been using, not necessarily for accuracy, but just kind of as a fun thing for people to spot, is the Hero Factory plant pod. So kind of a strange parts usage. It definitely sticks out as not being from the right time period, but hopefully people see it and think it's at least a clever parts usage.
I don't remember ever seeing that plant part before, and I worked at the store when Hero Factory came out, so that's interesting.
Yeah, I think they were only in a handful of sets, but there was a neon green one, there was a blue one, and a red one, I think. So a little few and far between, but it's like 3 separate leaves. Here, I can show you better here on the bottom. It's like 3 separate plant leaves that push into the 3-pronged Technic receptacle there. Kind of an interesting construction, and they're that rubbery plastic, so that I guess it's supposed to be like a man-eating plant, like you can put somebody in there. Yeah, Chris is talking about the raised base plates. So the raised base plates in the picture, I mean, they almost look like a teal or turquoisey kind of color, but I opted to go with the sort of gray ones that were from the Hydronauts base, just so it at least looks like something a little more unusual, a little more uncommon, as opposed to the screaming bright blue ones that were more common in Aquanauts, I guess. So something interesting there for sure. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? I guess I can just run through the rest of the vehicles real quick. This one was like a anglerfish. You got that light over the top, again with the big bug eyes and this sort of trapezoid shaped jaw kind of jutting out the front there. It's got some control panels in there too. So these are definitely like mechanical ships just based on animals. I mean, it gives me very 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea kind of vibes for sure.
We have a question from Adam asking about, do we have any Seatron lore?
Nope. I would love to know. I mean, we've gotten just a little bit in the articles. The Brick Journal article described it as spaceships on a water planet. And that's really all we got. I mean, we know it turned into Aquazone. So a lot of people, myself included, like to yank people's chains by calling Aquazone a space theme. I think Brian and I were kind of going at it in the Peach Lug Discord the other day because we were talking about whether Rock Raiders was a space theme, and then it devolved into, is Aquazone a space theme, and then is Power Miners a space theme. It was a mess. All in good fun.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah. All right, Chris. This is another interesting one. This was sort of shaped like a crab. But I sort of built this one based only on the Seatron picture, and it was pretty confident in how it turned out. And then I discovered recently it's almost identical in construction to an actual set that did come out, but under Stingrays. It's just, the set is just called Crab, I think, and it's either Stingrays or what was the other one from that time period? Hydronauts. It was one of those two. I think it was Stingrays. So I may have to go back and revisit this one and see if I can get it more accurate by taking some of the construction methods from the actual set that did come out. But yeah, Proto Crabulon, exactly, for Zoom. We got to get this one in with the Crabulons for sure, or maybe do a recolor of this for the Crabulons. And then the last one, which was the biggest one, is this one. So my guess for the other kind of mid-sized one was Stingray. So this one, I believe, has to be Manta Ray. I mean, you've got that kind of shaping with the two things that kind of jut out on the front and the wings that have kind of a longer, thinner taper out on the ends. So I mean, this one's obscenely large. I started building it, and the footprint was just humongous. It's very thin, but it's a lot of plates and interesting things. So, again, did some custom decal work for this one there for those cockpit pieces. Yeah, they're cool for sure, Adam. But you know, people are not super hot on like the Aqua Raiders 1 sets, which were black and green, which is, you know, kind of what it came out to. So I don't know if you have those, but a lot of people are quick to say like, oh, I would have bought this. And it's like, well, would you really have if it cost $155 back in 1990? So it's hard to say, but I'm having fun making them now, I think, for a lot less money. But I don't know.
It's really fun. I mean, that's something that's a really fun kind of deep dive for people who are a fan of the kind of background stuff that, it's a neat thing that a lot of us who are kind of familiar with the various space themes and stuff kind of have heard mention of it or seen a photo of it or whatever, and just to have you build the whole layout and all the stuff is really, really fun to see in person.
And that warms my heart coming from you guys, because like the first time I think I brought this to a show that you all were at, probably Atlanta BrickCon last year. It was just really cool getting such a warm reception from you guys, having not really met a lot of you at the time or not joined Peach Lug at the time. And so it was cool knowing that these long-standing members of the space community, like you and Chris, for sure. I mean, I knew about stuff like Star Justice and Space Skulls, from when I was a kid. That stuff was in catalogs. So to meet you guys and have you guys be so appreciative of something that I had done that was kind of honoring this obscure old space thing was really cool to me, for sure. It was really special.
Also, just the fact that you actually got them as like everyone you showed. I'm looking at the picture on my other screen here, and everyone you showed, I'm like, yeah, that looks exactly like it looks. Like you've taken a picture that's really hard to see the details. I mean, you can see it, and you still managed to pull almost everything out, I would say.
Okay, we have shots fired in the chat, though.
Staying on the name. Belongs in City. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Aqua Raiders 2 was more like my childhood time period, so I had a few of those. But it's definitely not at all related to Aqua Raiders 1.
So to your point about price, when I worked at the Lego store here at North Point, it was in between when Lego was putting out Harry Potter sets, and people would come in every single week and ask like, "Oh, do you have Harry Potter?" And I remember my store manager saying after the people had left, he's like, when we had Harry Potter the first time, it didn't really sell that well. He was like, it was okay, but it didn't sell like hotcakes. And he goes, if these people who want Harry Potter today had like bought it, we would probably still have Harry Potter, But he's like, it didn't sell that great the first cycle, and then there was some more stuff, and so they got the license back and they put out more sets. But it's when people say like, oh, I would have bought that, yeah, maybe not.
Right, exactly.
You guys mentioned Aqua Raiders 2, and I don't see a theme in Brickset for Aqua Raiders 2. Was it a different name? Or was it literally a city theme?
Maybe it was just referred to as Aqua Raiders. It was the theme where they had the black helmets with sort of the light blue trident pattern on it.
Okay. Oh, look. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think it was mostly just referred to as Aqua Raiders. Most of the bases were kind of yellow, black, and trans light blue.
Yeah, okay.
It was really more a predecessor to Atlantis, I would say, than a successor to Aqua Raiders 1.
Okay.
Because you had these sort of giant fantasy underwater creatures, humongous sharks and stuff like that.
Cool.
But going back to
Small Paul has decided that he's created this is Small Paul's Sharkulons that.
Oh yeah.
All I did was just take the city space body and the city space helmet. I just stuck it on the tail, and I gave it a laser gun with a shark on it.
I have to say that the Crabulons better beware because that looks pretty intimidating.
Yeah. It's just a shark with a body. That's literally it.
The Crabulons will have to use their considerable brain power to combat the physicality of the Sharkulons.
There you go.
Well,
I think Andrew's got it figured out. I think it was Aqua Raiders with a space in between.
And
I
the
guess
other one was
the
Aqua
difference.
Zone,
Yeah.
I think. Because Aqua Zone was the yellow and the black and green ones, right?
Aqua Zone was yellow. I don't
Like
know.
Aqua Zone is
They all run together for me.
yeah. No, you're right. That over the years they had all the different ones. Okay. I actually like the Aqua Raiders. I actually enjoyed that theme. I thought it was pretty cool, but please don't kick me out.
I think Aqua Zone was like the overarching theme, and all the rest of them were, sub themes. So the ones that most people think of as Aqua Zone, which was, this color scheme, was Aqua Knots, but you also had, Aqua Raiders, Hydronauts, all these other variations of the same four words.
So in Brickset, Aqua Zone is a major theme, and then there's sub themes of Aquanauts, Aqua Raiders, Aqua Sharks, Hydronauts, and Stingrays. Okay. So I was just looking at it by the bigger category.
And none of them have light aqua as a color, right?
Well, that's because it didn't exist.
Well, so one thing as we begin to start wrapping up here is where am I headed next with Seatron? So if we hop back over to the picture sharing thing, one of the other things that I found in the new space book, there's new aqua lore. So I've completed Seatron. I've completed the Sea People. Now I may have to do Aqua Dome, and this looks like a real pain. You've got these giant, they look like kitchen bowls to me.
Daniel has not spent enough money, clearly. He's got...
Apparently not.
I can tell you for sure Chris is going to be angry that those large clear domes never came out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, look how huge they are. So the biggest one, you can see inside of that is one of the trans neon green octagonal domes.
Yep.
I mean, that's huge.
And that's one piece at the looks of it. I like it. It's hard to see if there's a split in there, but I mean, there's two different sized bowls. Right?
Yeah.
And not only that, but the trans yellow, that bigger trans yellow or trans neon yellow cockpit as well. The canopy.
I have to think it would be more akin to like a molded base plate, like how we got the Aqua Zone, that blue crystal base plate, the one that doesn't have any studs on it. But I would have to imagine it was, a flimsier plastic like that, as opposed to like an actual kind of rigid ABS piece.
But picture the box sets that would have come in. It would have just come in the bowl, right? Like
exactly. I don't know. Maybe the bowl was the container for the set. Honestly, that could have been. It very well could have been. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But what's interesting about this, and what's made me think about it, because of your comment, Matt, aqua color, is there is sort of a medium blue kind of color in this. And so I don't know. That's another one that I think a lot of spray paint would have to be involved with, and I'm not sure I'm ready to go down that path again. We'll see. Maybe coming 2025 or later. Yeah, vacuum forming might be an option, Stephen. That may be what I have to look at. The only other thing I would think of would just be, going to Bed Bath and Beyond. Oh no, wait, those are all closed now. Where do you go to? Where do you go? Home Goods, I guess. Probably. Go to the kitchen aisle in Home Goods and look for some clear bowls. I don't know.
Amazon.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, if it were trans clear, you could do 3D printing, but you need that opaqueness. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we're coming up on 9 o'clock, but we want to say a big thank you to Daniel for joining us and sharing all of that with us tonight, because we've enjoyed his Seatron layout at our recent Atlanta BrickCon as well as last year's show. So it's been something that we've wanted to have him on and chat for a while, and glad we could make that happen.
Yeah, thank y'all for listening to me ramble for an hour about it.
Yeah, and you're welcome to come back on the show and join us for anytime. We'll put you on the mass email list when we have our Messy Monday hangouts or anything else. You can come and chat. And
if ever there was a target audience for you rambling about obscure old themes, this is the show.
Perfect. I'm in the right place.
Yep.
Yeah. So Chris, of course, says you're always welcome in the OGBs. So thank you for joining us, and thanks to everybody in the chat for hanging out with us tonight and listening to the show. And lots of chatter in the chat too, which is always good to have a little activity going on over there.
Mhm.
And we will see everybody on Monday for our usual Messy Monday show. So, as Chris would say, be awesome and build awesome and be kind to your neighbor. And everybody have a really good weekend. And we will see you on Monday. So, bye. Bye, everybody.